Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here this evening to hear my address. This will be the 19th year I've given the State of Cary address. Cary today is recognized as one of the best communities in America, and that's not a new distinction. It's one we get every year and have gotten every year for decades. We're defined by our residents, our high quality of life, our exceptional staff, and a strong business climate. But as we begin this year, as probably many of you know, we bring a lot of 2025 with us. On November 20th of last year, we removed then town manager Sean Stegall from office. That was a unanimous decision by the Cary Town Council. His directions were inconsistent with not only our values, but the values that Cary residents have. You've probably heard about the over-the-top spending, stay in hotel rooms, thousands of dollars a night, flying first class, having elaborate dinners, buying expensive items for his office. All these things were definitely not consistent with our values. And then there's the inadequate financial reporting and lack of transparency. A couple of examples there. There were positions being cut under his direction or unfunded, and that was presented to council as staff wanted to do this, and staff was okay with this, when in fact those unfunded positions are not only causing problems today, but caused problems in the past as well. And that's something we're going to have to deal with. But the message that got across to the council was staff was okay with this, this is going to be okay. Another example was the trends that were downplayed over the years. Our revenues have been flattening out for many, many years, and our expenses have been growing by double digits. And we have been discussing that for the last 2 years. We should have been discussing that for about the last 5 years. And that's also created a hardship that we have to deal with. And then there's the toxic environment he created. If you worked with him and you disagreed with him, he would ridicule you, he would marginalize you. That's what staff was dealing with. And he took information from council and distorted it to staff. He took information from staff and distorted it to council. He took information between council members and used it against each of us. And in front of the staff, he denigrated council members and me, the mayor, in front of staff. And that's what staff was dealing with. So the big question is, how did you not know this? How could you not have known all these things were going on? And that's a great question. First of all, Sean was a very smart guy. And in my opinion, he was extremely lucky to get away with what he did for so long. And then he terrified staff. And he knew all the vulnerabilities and exploited them of the council manager form of government. Now I want to talk about the council manager form of government for a minute. Council manager form of government is set up like a corporation. You have a board of directors. They hire a CEO to run the operations. In this case, the CEO, or the town manager, not only ran all the operations, but he controlled all the information that flowed from council to staff and staff to council between council members. That's very, very important. And you can Google council manager form of government vulnerabilities, and the first thing you'll see is lack of accountability for the CEO. The second thing you'll see is flow of information. And he knew this, and he exploited this. So is Cary unique in council manager form of government? Are we unique in our vulnerabilities? I would say no. Almost all municipalities in North Carolina have council manager form of government. Almost all mid-sized cities in the United States have council manager form of government. And I can tell you, I've met with the mayors of Wake County twice now. And we're supposed to speak a couple of minutes apiece, and I've spoken for over an hour twice. Because they know they have the same vulnerabilities as we do. And they want to make sure they do not get caught with a bad player. And I predict in the end, we'll be a role model of council manager form of government in the nation. So where do we go from here? Well, first of all, how do we get here? I tell you that I found out mid-November of last year through anonymous tips from staff what was going on. And within 2 or 3 days, I contacted our auditor. And after that, the council met on a Tuesday. The following Tuesday, we discussed on how to remove him, and we didn't decide. And on Thursday of that week, he was removed from office again. That was unanimous. So as we move forward, we have to deal with the town manager. We have to deal with all that's going on. We've finished with the local auditor that we use, Cary Beckert. It's our annual audit. And what they do is say, did you meet all the finance regulations? Do your revenues balance with your expenses? And we got a clean report. A report that came in yesterday from Fitch Bond Rating Agency said we were strong and stable. Those are good signs because you have to ask, what is the impact of this individual's actions? And as far as I can tell, the impact did not hurt our tax rate, and the impact was minimized mainly because of the strong organization and the exceptional staff. So what actions are still ongoing? Well, we have the state auditor. They've asked for hundreds of thousands of records, and we're doing our best to accommodate them each and every way we can. We dedicated staff to them. We're trying our best to help them out. Then we've hired an internal investigator. And this is the law firm Wobble Bond Dickinson. And they're going to go through everything we do, including interviewing former staff members to find out what they knew, what happened, and what we could change, what we should change. And they're going to report back to us. I'm guessing that may happen in a couple of months, but we don't know the timeline of that. And then we have an investigation by the Wake DA and the SBI. I have absolutely no information on that at all. However, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, I don't anticipate we'll see anything that's illegal. So what has happened has damaged public trust. It takes years to build public trust and just a second to destroy it. And that's where we are. However, as an organization, we remain strong because we identified the problems, we confronted them, we corrected them, we didn't ignore them or conceal them. So to run this organization in the near future, we have to have somebody that clearly understands all the details of the organization and its personnel. Somebody that knows Cary very well, and that's Russ Overton. He's been involved with the town since 1998. He's been an engineer, he's been in inspections, and an assistant town manager, and was our deputy town manager. And so on December 15th, we named him as our interim town manager. Now, as of now, the council has not decided to move forward naming a permanent town manager. We need to get through this process first before we think about that. But Russ will ensure continuity. He will stabilize the organization. And one thing he'll do is he'll do the actions council has asked for years. And that's give us an employee survey. Yes, it might cost some money, but we have to know what the employees are thinking. And they have to have the ability to whistleblow. If something's going wrong, we need to know it, especially if we're responsible for policy. Cary has a new council. 2 years ago, we had about 100 years of experience on council. And now 5 of us have 8 years of experience. However, it is still a strong council. They are dedicated and committed to moving this organization forward in a positive way. They really care about our community. 2 of our newest council members, Brittany Richards, she's at District A, she's your representative there. She has educational background in history and public policy. She wants to make sure we protect our natural spaces, keep our quality of life high, and keep our diversity in housing options. Bella Huang is the District C representative, and she has an educational background in electrical engineering and an MBA, and she wants to make sure we're safe, vibrant, and a welcoming community. As I mentioned, trust has been breached. We got to build that trust, and the way we do that is be transparent. On November 20th, I made a motion. Same night, Sean Stigall was removed from office. Made a motion, council unanimously passed it, so that every time the council is together as a group, it's streamed. You can watch everything we do as a council and know all the details we know. We also created on our website a frequently asked questions page about the manager transition. And on there is a link to the public records portal. There are over 80 public records requests, over 60 of them by the newspaper, which takes a lot of staff time and a lot of information that we have to get out to you, and that is definitely something we're very committed to doing, is making sure we get all that information out to the public. One of the things the former town manager did to make sure he controlled the information was meet with council members one-on-one. Russ immediately changed that, even as the deputy manager before he was interim. So now we have what we call a 3x4. That means the mayor and 2 council members meet with the manager and 3 senior staff members to provide information to each other. and that is key. That will control that conduit. Instead of being very small, it'll be larger, and we all get information at the same time, which is key in making policy decisions and in building trust. We've extended our budget process. When I get to the finance slide, there's going to be a QR code for April 7th. We're going to have a budget exercise for the entire community. We want you to participate. We want you to be a part of it. We recently held our annual meeting. It's like an all-day, two-day work session, and it was live streamed for the first time ever. We averaged over 2,600 viewers per session online, and that shows the interest in what we're doing as elected leaders. And if you missed that and you want to see what's going on, you can find that on Cary's YouTube. So every year, Cary gets dozens of accolades, and every year I summarize them into 1 or 2 slides. This year I decided not to do that. I'm going to show you all 40 of them. That's almost one a week. First slide here, quality of life. Yeah, best place to live, not a surprise. We're a must-visit stop, according to Southern Living. #1 place in North Carolina and Wake County to raise a family and live, not a surprise. Safety and well-being, always one of the safest communities in the nation. We have a strong job market, a best place to retire. People move here and do not leave. One of the hottest vacation spots, and that's absolutely surprising to me, and it was confirmed by a friend of mine, said, yeah, I knew someone that came here for a vacation, so that's new. And cities that young families are flocking to, that's Cary. Accolades on the economy, jobs, and innovation, one of the best real estate markets, new housing construction in the metro area, fastest jobs and talent in the metro area. We are a great place for remote workers. And as far as innovation, we had the first electric fire truck on the East Coast, and our downtown Cary Park was also given an award. Education and enrichment, we're recognized as being a very well-educated community. Our municipal tennis park was #1 in the nation. Our playground was recognized as #1 in the nation. And our downtown park also received awards. And the Maiden Inn, right next to the downtown park, also is the best hotel in the Raleigh area. Demographic-wise, our population growth has really slowed. Actually, my slides last year said 192,000. I've got 192,000 this year, which says 0 growth. That's not accurate. It's probably under 1%, though. Growth for the decade before was about 16.8%. So we've really slowed down fast. We are aging as a population. In 2014, we're about 11.8 a year, over 65. And now we're 16.2. So we're a very aged population. And the under 18 is also growing faster than national average, which is also important. And the median age in Cary is 43 years old. Demographics-wise, a lot different from when I moved here in 1958. We're now 54% white, 22% Asian, which is mostly Indian American, 8.5% Hispanic, 8.4% Black. Over 26% of Cary residents were born outside the U.S. As I mentioned earlier, we're a very well-educated population, with 1/3 of us having college degrees. But now we have more people with advanced degrees than we do bachelor's degrees. That's 35%. And then if you add in associate degrees, that means over 80% of our population has some kind of college degree. Median household income in Cary is now $135,000. That means if you're looking for affordable housing here, that's going to be tough. Income is growing very fast in Cary. Previous 5 years, before the last 5 years, we were growing, income growth was about 15.5%. Last 5 years, 27.9%. If you live in Cary, you probably own a home. About 70% of us do. And that median home value is $650,000. and pretty much all of us have broadband access. Financially, we are solid. Tax rate, 34 cents per $100 of value, remains the lowest in Wake County for the 18th consecutive year. Our budget this past year, started on July 1st, was over $500 million, which is a 2.7% increase, and $420 million of that was operations. I mentioned the flattening revenues. Revenue, 61% is property tax, and 21% is sales tax. Since we're growing at less than 1% a year, that property tax is not growing, and the sales tax not growing much either. So that means our revenues are pretty much flat. Expenses, 83% are operations, public safety, and public works. And if you add in parks, that's another 10%, which means over 90% are in those areas. And that's increasing significantly. Good news, I mentioned earlier that we heard yesterday that Fitch gave us the bond rating of AAA, again, recognizing our stability and our strength. Cary has an employee-staff ratio which is by far the lowest in Wake County. It's under 7 employees per 1,000 residents. Some municipalities in Wake County have 15 employees per 1,000 residents. I can tell you that this is not sustainable, and this will cause us problems as we move forward talking about the budget. And there's the QR code. If you want to come to our budget open house, we would love to hear from you, because budget and tax rate are all about values. We need to hear about your values as well as our values. The economy in Cary, always very strong. 1,200 jobs added last year. As of November, it said Cary had a 3.3% unemployment rate. I think it's 3 now, but we're always lower than Wake County, the state, and the nation. Our assessed value, that's everything in Cary, is $53.1 billion. And the reason that is significant, because the total value of Cary continues to increase. Left land for development is shrinking. It shows less than 14% if you take out land that's not developable and other things that are not attractive to property owners to build on, then it's more like 8 or 9%. So we're running out of land, which means we see more redevelopment than we see greenfield development. Some of the projects going on that may interest you, South Hills is looking to move forward with a mixed-use development. Their latest are coming to us with a tax district request, which means they want more services and they're willing to pay for it. The old mall side, I get questions about that. I want to say almost daily, at least weekly. Epic Games owns that and has no plans. I would love for them to come forward. We would work with them, try to get them to do anything on that site rather than the moonscape it is. But we have no authority to make them do anything unless it becomes a safety hazard. Alston Yards, which is across from Parkside Commons, is a perfect example of public-private partnership. We work with them on their mixed-use development proposal, and we have now a linear park coming out of that, and that will be coming to council soon. And then Fenton is finishing up with phase 1, and that includes a boutique hotel with 186 rooms called the Pagemore, and they will have restaurants and meeting rooms, which you would expect at a hotel. However, their goal is to make their restaurant a destination for residents of Cary more than an amenity to the hotel. So they want to be involved in the community, and that construction is underway. Out at Green Level Church Road, there's Duke Health. They're finishing up phase 1 or working on phase 1. That's going to have ambulatory care and about 40 beds. Their phase 2 will have an 8-story building with parking, and that will have 100 beds. Regency has had 2 multifamily proposals, received a lot of negative feedback from the citizens, residents that live around there, as well as from the council. One of those projects has been pulled. The other one remains in progress or in process. Our biggest concerns for that is, what are you doing to help the amphitheater because you're so close? And that's what we were looking for as a council, is something to benefit the amphitheater and that area. Weston has a multifamily proposal. We're going to be seeing that really soon. It was reviewed by the P&Z, or is getting ready to be reviewed by the P&Z. It'll be interesting to see what council does with that one. How am I going backwards? Okay. That was strange. Like I was going backwards. So downtown is booming. We have Socha 56. They have 2 buildings open. They're building 2. And then at Meridian East, which is the Hunter and Chatham development, they have 5-story mixed use there. They have parking deck and retail and residential units as well. And the newest tenant is the Refreshery Coffee and Juice. If that's your thing, that's the place to go, the newest and greatest. And then Meridian Cary is at Chatham and Academy. That's 3 buildings. 2 of those are pretty much done. They will also have residential and parking. Other development in downtown, you could probably see it from here when you walk outside, is the Lloyd's at Chatham. It used to be Gherkins. That's going to be a restaurant and should open later this year. They're working on that one. And then Rogers on Chatham, which opened last year, or year before last now, is going to have a parking deck, open soon. And they also have tenants, and their newest tenant will be K38. And speaking of parking, I was told not to say that these parking decks are going to be open around March 16th. So you did not hear that from me. But when they do open, they will have 288 in the Cedar Street parking and ADA and EV stations. Academy Street will have the bottom 3 floors, and that will be 222 spaces, also ADA and EV spaces. Street projects, Cary maintains neighborhood streets. NCDOT maintains all your major roads. In Cary, we do not like to see cracks and potholes in our neighborhoods. And that's why those streets are different from like Kildare Farm Road, where there are potholes and cracks everywhere. So we repave our streets. We put rejuvenators on our streets to prevent cracking and extend life. And some of the projects we're going to see this year includes the 1.5 miles from West Chatham to Cary Parkway to Old Apex Road. And then the NCDOT projects, they're looking at Highway 55, Trinity Road, and a fiber traffic signal at 1010 and Penny, and Dillard and Walnut Street improvements and crosswalks. We have a lot of intersection improvements coming up, especially with sidewalks and signals, Cary Parkway and Norwell. I want to point out the High House and Bond entrance, which is really significant. When we started that project, I think the cost estimate was around $1 million to put in that traffic signal. And now it's over $3 million. That's how much inflation has impacted what we do. Weston Parkway and Evans, we're seeing crosswalk improvements there, repaving in the spring of this year. We're seeing pedestrian improvements in several places. One place is over by Panther Creek, where we saw a tragic accident. And one of our council members, Sarika Bonsall, worked with the school board, worked with engineers, worked with all the decision makers, since we weren't a decision maker. And we came up with solutions, and those solutions will be sidewalks and signals, which we will probably see operational in the 27-28 school year. Cary gets money for the miles of streets we have. We will receive $5 million of that this year. And we've added actually almost 6.5 miles this year. Cary has adopted Vision Zero, as well as the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They've also adopted Vision Zero. And what that is, it's a goal of having no deaths in traffic accidents in the coming years. So that is a goal. So you can change roads and signals and all sorts of things to try to limit deaths. Transit is also growing in Cary. We're going through all our bus stops and making sure that they're ADA accessible, that they have security lighting, and also customer information panels. We have an operation maintenance facility that's going to come online by 2028. We receive money for that. That's about a 50,000 square foot building. And then the multimodal center is going to be between the railroad tracks as they diverge, Harrison and Northwest Street. And that's going to handle all modes of transportation, including regional bus service, BRT, future commuter rail, and more recent we will see regional rail, and track intercity, and demolition and abatement is currently ongoing at that site, and they should be taking buildings down later this year. Cary thinks that sustainability is one of the highest priorities. And so one of the things I mentioned was our first electric fire truck. We're also looking at our police vehicles, converting them to biofuel. We received a grant to do that. So now 18% of our fleet is either alternative fuels or electric, and we will continue to grow that as time goes on. Cary believes in a tree canopy. We want to grow our tree canopy. We have an urban forester. That's one of their main goals. If you've ever been up high and looked down, Cary has a lot of trees. I know council members went on top of a water tank just to see how many trees we had. We have about 50% trees, and we're trying to grow that, not shrink that. And a lot of people think with the development, we're trying to get rid of that. We're confined by state law, but we're trying to protect all the trees we can. We have policies that do that. We have a plan also. The Cary Open Space Plan will help with the tree preservation. Recycling is a big deal for Cary. 71,000 tons of waste, recycling, and yard waste was diverted from a landfill. That's really great economically, but also environmentally. 48% of that was, 33% of that was yard waste, leaves, and food, and another 15% was the traditional recycling. They were also doing a pilot program with fire and police uniforms. And now here's the bad news. In the 1950s, Cary opened up a convenience center on Dixon Road or off Dixon Road that was in the railroad right-of-way. And we've had it now for about 70 years, and now the railroad says, we're going to build a spur, you need to get out. And we have till the end of the year to get out. So council is looking at all options, but one thing is for sure, that convenience center as it operates today will not be operating it that way at the end of the year. There are a lot of options. Some say relocate it, which would cost $5 to $6 million. Keep in mind that Cary was the only municipality in Wake County that operated their own convenience center. The others, like Apex and Morrisville, were operated in a partnership with Wake County. And that's what we're going to probably try to get Wake County to do with us, is partner with us to open a convenience center somewhere else. If you live in a structure that was built before 2000, then you probably did not have any stormwater regulations. And so we're going through trying to fix stormwater-related problems, including flooding. Some of the things we've done is assist property owners. Other things, rebuild, rehabilitate dams like at Twin Lakes. And then we're also modeling our creeks, trying to learn how they flood. And we also have assistance with that from experts like at NC State. And we've joined the FEMA community rating system, and that's good for your flood insurance because that reduces rates 15%. Cary is recognized nationally for sustainability awards. And if you go to any of these conferences, like the American Public Works Association or one of these other conferences, you'll see there are thousands and thousands of people from municipalities all over the country. And the fact that we had 2 from Cary receive national awards was pretty outstanding. The National Fleet Manager of the Year and the Stormwater Professional of the Year. That's because Cary has the best of the best. We also receive awards for organics, diversion, and for our composting at Lazy Days. Housing is always a concern, Cary. I mentioned that $135,000 a year is the average median income. That really impacts affordability. We want to make sure that we are trying to help in housing. We created an action plan to figure out how to spend CDBG money. And what that is Community Development Block Grant money. And we receive about $3.5 million from the federal government every year. And we received over 1,000 suggestions for residents of how to use that money. We also adapted a new amendment to our land development ordinance which will allow accessory dwelling units. And that's good news. However, the bad news is most of us, or a lot of us, live in homeowner associations, and that doesn't apply there. Some of the affordable housing projects, Marigold was started a couple of years ago. We had federal dollars for that. That should be completed by next spring. That has 30%, 60%, and 80% average median income, which is very important, especially since it's right next to a school. Because if you're talking about 80% income, that's over $100,000 a year, and you've excluded teachers, firemen, policemen, or firefighters, police officers. You've excluded all of them. So we have to be mindful of what these affordable housing units mean to our community. In that development, they have a community park and a stormwater infrastructure. Rose Park Manor, which is right next to Glen Eyre, is going to be opening very soon, and that's 81 senior affordable housing units. That's 60% AMI, and I hear that that's in high demand. We want to make sure that those who retire here and want to stay here can stay in their homes. We have a program called Healthy Homes Cary, and that allows us to help with critical repairs for lower income residents. We also have Stable Homes Cary, where we are partnering with Neighbor Up, Caring Place, White Oak Foundation. And that's very important this year because you probably heard that Chatham Estates residents were told they have till summer and they have to vacate that area. And that's nearly 150. And out of that 150, I heard 122 have already reached out to those partners looking for relocation. The sad news is out of all those 150 residents, it's estimated that only 40% of them will remain in Cary because they can't afford to live here. Cary has almost 600 miles of greenways and sidewalks. Black Creek has a lot of phases going on. First phase done. Second phase, Livingstone Drive to Weston, will be open this spring. And then the third phase will be later this year at Old Reedy Creek Road. Higgins Greenway, which allowed you to go into downtown Cary, was a critical gap. And now you can take a greenway to the downtown Cary Park, the library, or Cary Elementary. We're also having a lot of sidewalk connection projects to connect those gaps, and ped crossings and signals and stormwater infrastructure, ADA, LED crosswalks, all kinds of pedestrian improvements because that is a high priority. We also completed projects such as Lily Atkins Optimus Farm Road. We're going to see signals this year at Westlake, Pittard Sears, West Chatham, West Boundary, and Weldon Ridge, and we'll see the Cary Parkway and Penny sidewalk this year. Cary has over 30 parks. 2 of them have a lot of visitors. Brooks Park's over 2 million visitors a year, and also Bond Park, over 2 million visitors a year. We had a philanthropist give money for a playground in Davis Drive, and that should open up later this year. And last year we celebrated 49 years of Lazy Days, which means this year we celebrate half a century, and that should be a big celebration. So you got to be there. Cocoa Booth celebrated 25 years last year, and the picture there is the mural that's painted there to commemorate that anniversary. They had over 100 events that were sold out, over 365,000 visitors. They had several large events, including Hum Sub Diwali, where we had 2 mayors dancing in that, and most of the council and about a dozen staff members. And just so you know, we went viral in India and had 190 million views. So we're rock stars in India. Chinese Lantern Festival creates a lot of entertainment. If you've been to the Chinese Lantern Festival, you have to go every year because they change it every year. And that created an economic impact of $10 million. And the amphitheater was also recognized for the Red Rocks Award this year. The downtown Cary Park, over 100,000 visitors this year. At events like the Pimento Cheese Festival. I like pimento cheese, but I don't know why I would go to the festival. But a lot of people did. The Taste of China, I did go to that one, and plenty more. There were 67,000 dog visits to our dog park in downtown Cary Park. I assume there are repeat visitors there. I'm not sure we have 67,000 dogs in Cary. As I mentioned earlier, our Nest Playground was #1 playground in the country. So this is a great park. It costs a lot of money, and it costs a lot of money to maintain it and operate it. So why are we doing that? Well, first, it's a fantastic amenity. And second, it's a big economic driver. Properties within a half mile have increased their values by $200 to $300 million. There's been 15 new businesses and 1,200 new jobs. The food and beverage tax revenue has been up 11%, and the hotel tax revenue has been up 18%. But the annual impact of that park is estimated to be $16 million. We have 3 major sports venues in Cary, I would call world-class sports venues, and they generate tens of millions of dollars in economic impact. I'll talk about one of my favorite, Cary Tennis Park, again, named #1 tennis park in the U.S. Has ITA Women's All-American Championship, that's a college thing. Professional Pickleball Championship was one of the most well-attended pickleball championships in the nation, and we're working on making that grow. And the Cary Tennis Classic Professional Tournament is also, that's July 4th week, and the ACC Men's and Women's. Those events are not only fun to watch, but they're also generating a lot of dollars for Cary. Wake Med Soccer Park is the home of North Carolina Courage. They hold the College Cup for Division I, that's the national championship. This year, NC State played in the finals, which guaranteed a sellout in both semifinals and finals, which was great. That was last year. This year, the men's and women's College Cup will be on the same weekend. So you'll have Thursday, Saturday semifinal, final, and then you'll have a Friday, Sunday semifinal, final. And that will be wild. Last year also, Cary High School and Apex High School celebrated their 100th year of their rivalry. And so before the game, and that was played at Wake Med, and before the game, players from both sides and both of the mayors went out there and we all talked trash, and then Cary won. So there you go. The TST soccer tournament is coming again this year, and we have it through 2029. And if you've seen soccer, you haven't seen TST. So they take the field, cut it in half, cut the players down to 7, so it's 7 on 7, and then when they finish, they add 1 to the score and you play to that score. But the kicker is that every 5 minutes they subtract players. And it's $1 million winner take all. This year, it went from, in the finals, it went from 3 on 3 to 2 on 2. Guy from one end of the field hit a long curving ball into the net over the other guy's head for $1 million, which is just fascinating to watch, the agony of defeat and the thrill of victory. But it is a must-see. That event alone, $15 million in annual economic impact. And they've joined that with a Cary Cup youth tournament that draws teams from all over the Southeast. And if you're wondering about the NCFC team, they have paused play at Wake Med. And then you have the USA Baseball National Training Complex. If you know baseball, you hear Division I, Road to Omaha. Well, Division II, they've been coming to Cary for years, and we have it through 2038. So Division II, it's the road to Cary. And they've opened up a new indoor facility there, And we draw teams from all over the country constantly for small tournaments. And in the past few weeks, every year they have teams from the Northeast coming down to play little mini tournaments because they can't play up there. So that's a big economic driver as well. And to get more play, they put some of the side fields next to the main field. They've changed that to artificial turf and converted it. So what plans the growth in Cary and how we develop? That's the Cary Community Plan. For 3 years, Cary citizens gave us input, and then a group of 30 citizens boiled it down to decision points, and the Cary Council in 2017 made those decisions and created the Cary Community Plan, and that's what drives our development. We updated it in 2024, and this year we're updating it again with 3 changes. So I want to close by starting off with a story. I was going to an event at Maiden Inn this summer, and I parked in the Methodist lot, and I'm walking down Park Street, and about 30 yards in front of me was a couple pushing a stroller, and the lady and her husband were talking about a place they visited in Fenton, a neighborhood they visited, the amphitheater they visited, and then they started talking about downtown Cary Park, and then they stopped, and they looked at each other, and they said, "That's it, we're moving here." And my point is that Cary still exists today. We're facing challenges. We can rip ourselves apart and feed the media, or we can come together and be strong, which I know we are. I believe in our residents. I believe in our staff. I believe in our council. And I believe we will emerge stronger in the end. Why? Because Cary has never been about one person. It's been about all of us. So that is my State of Cary address, and I want to thank you for being here and being patient and listening. And I would love to take some questions from the audience. And we have a person with a microphone there and a person with a microphone there. You will have to come down, and they will allow you to ask questions.
I'm just wondering, is the council doing anything to confirm the rumored ICE facility? And if confirmed, is the council going to take a position on the further expansion of ICE into town?
So here's what I know about the rumor or whatever had in Regency, is that I was contacted by Foundry Commercial today, and they said in October, the U.S. Government Security Agency, General Services Administration, that's right, rented that space, has occupied that space since October. And they have no plans for a detention facility, and they will not respond to ICE. So the answer to that part is we have no idea what's going on there. We don't know of anything about ICE going on in there. And if we did, we have absolutely no authority to stop them. They can do anything they want. As far as a statement, I made a statement in November, and I said, every person in Cary should be treated with dignity, respect, and compassion. And today, I don't feel any different. That is my statement. If you want to know how I feel, that's how I feel. Yes?
Lawmakers in cities like Philadelphia and Denver have proposed legislation that would bar ICE and other law enforcement agencies from operations that include wearing masks to conceal their identity, using unmarked vehicles for detention efforts, and preventing city agencies from sharing immigration and citizenship information with federal agencies. What laws or legislation is the Cary Town Council pursuing to regulate ICE's behavior in Cary and help protect the more than 26% of our immigrant-born population?
So there's a thing called home rule and Dillon's rule. Home rule means a municipality can do anything they want unless the legislature says you can't. In North Carolina, we're a Dillon's rule, which means You can't do anything unless we give you permission. We have no authority, no permission, cannot do any ordinances to stop ICE.
Yeah, hi. Where are we getting our water, and where will we be going forward with the population increasing? And enough to withstand a severe drought like we had maybe 15, 20 years ago?
So my understanding, well, we get our water from Jordan Lake, and my understanding is we have the capacity to go to, and I will have to check, but I think it's like 240,000 people. And I don't know, that will be decades before we get there growing at 1%. So that should not be an issue. Our wastewater is at New Hill has plenty of room for expansion and capacity there as well. There are plans being looked at beyond Jordan Lake. And there would be, before those plans were implemented, a request for more allocation of Jordan Lake. But right now, we have capacity at Jordan Lake to handle future populations.
Good evening, Mayor. Wonderful speech,
Thank you.
wonderful summary, and it is a great town.
Thank you.
That's why I live here. But I want to talk about ICE. I'm sorry. We have something very wonderful to protect here. And, you know, I understand the Dillon rule versus the home rule issue, but I also know other areas in the country have been facing that issue, and some people have found ways around it. We need, all of us, we need to explore those options and do whatever we can to protect ourselves and our region from ICE.
We just don't have that authority. I'm sorry if you think we do. We just don't have that authority.
I don't think we should say no just yet. We have a petition. 1,300 people responded, said do something. So we have done something. We've created a website where we're collecting the accounts of things that have been done outside of Cary. I think we at least need to look at them. And as a Dillon rule state, we need to look at them and say, okay, maybe we can do that one. We cannot say no, and we can't say sit on our hands and say no, we can't do anything. We have to at least consider that there might be things that we can do. An ICE operation, I mean, they're talking about potentially, 50 lawyers in here directing deportation. And like you said earlier, we don't know because they don't share that information. There is no transparency in our federal government as you have shown us in Cary. So we need to deal with that. We need to assume that they're not telling us everything, and we need to prepare for whatever's going to come down the pike and protect what we have. So are you open to considering a committee, a study group, I don't know, whatever you want to call it?
We have talked about this and investigated this, and the facts are we have no authority. I would encourage you to protest all day, every day. Well, take action against the decision makers. We're not one of them.
We'll continue this discussion.
Okay.
I'm also here to talk about ICE. I think listening to you speak, it sounds lazy, it sounds disingenuous, and it sounds cowardly to continuously say you have no options, you have no authority. You're not even willing to start a committee to investigate these things further. You're just going to sit there and say that there's no other options and that there's no authority that you could potentially have. And I find that very cowardly. One option is working with our police officers right now. We've seen across the country, in California and Texas and Minnesota, when the police officers are joining hands with federal government thugs, they're brutalizing local residents. And you can be working with these people to prepare them to stand with the protesters and facing the invaders when they come as we peacefully protest, rather than to join hands with them when they come. That is one easy option to start preparing our local police to do the right thing and not the wrong thing. You can also continue to speak up. You know, one social media post saying I don't have any authority isn't going to cut it for us. You can say that federal operations are beyond your authority, but your voice still matters. And you can publicly affirm that the town won't cooperate, won't assist, and that it will stand with its residents. You were elected to protect and to represent the people of the community. And you say here, just in your last address, you said you believe in our residents, but to say I can't do anything is not an acceptable answer. So stop standing silently by and start using the platform that we elected you to actually speak up for us, please.
I'm sorry you think I'm a coward. I really am. I would say you don't know me, but you're welcome to have any opinion of me that you would like. I will say I live next door to an immigrant. I've heard firsthand, please don't draw attention to ICE and bring them here. My child has to go with their passport and birth certificate out when ICE is here. Now, if you have protests, that's wonderful. I encourage that. If you have a public statement, you're asking for an invitation. You're asking them to come here, and you put the very people you want me to protect in danger. And that really concerns me, because I'm not here to do political statements. You can call me all the names you want. I'm fine with that. I'm here to protect the people of Cary. And if I think something I do is going to cause them harm, I'm not going to do it. And I'm worried about our immigrants. And I'm worried about drawing attention by making a political statement. However, the statement that they've got to be, that everybody has to be respected and treated fairly and treated with compassion. I totally stand behind that. I don't care what side of the ICE issue you're on. That's what I'm about. And I'm sorry if you think that's cowardly. Yes, sir.
Good evening. We often hear these cliches of if you were alive during the Holocaust, if you were alive during the Civil Rights Movement, if you were alive during apartheid South Africa, any of these moments where there's a real moral test, what would you have done? And I think there were plenty of people who would have said, hey, my hands are tied. The people above me, they say I can't, oh, the rules say this, the law says this, oh, you know, I just got to keep my head down. And in fact, you know, the best thing to protect the people who are vulnerable is to stay silent. We don't want to draw unnecessary attention. Frankly, I disagree. I think the way that we're going to protect ourselves and protect each other is when we all stand up, when we all stand together and say, no, you're not going to get away with this bullying, this terrorism, this kind of insane behavior that tries to push people into the shadows. And I think we all have a responsibility here to start to raise our voice. So ICE has already killed many, many people. Not just Renee Good and Alex Preddy, but many people in their detention centers. So if the safety of people here in Cary is a genuine concern, that should be a huge concern to all of us. Furthermore, they say that they don't even believe, like there's internal memos saying that they don't even respect the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. So for all this talk about, oh, we, you know, the different clauses, oh, you know, who's the authority here? I was a Boy Scout. I was taught that the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land, and any organization that goes against that is violating the law. So I think that should be somewhat of a standard. And in addition, you've heard openly, there's talk about sending ICE agents to the polls in November. I don't think there's a more clear-cut example of voter intimidation. So this is, again, a real moral test. How are we going to meet the moment or hide or shrink under the pressure? And, I mean, it's true. There have been municipalities that have passed ordinances to prevent ICE from, you know, getting facilities, Greensboro, Los Angeles, elsewhere. So it can be done. The real question is there the political will to do so? And it sounds like from your end, there's not. But my question for all of us, is there the political will to stand up? Yes. Is there the political will to stand up? Yes. Can we shut down ICE? Can we shut down ICE? Yes.
Many of our community members here today have come to comment on ICE, and I have as well. I live just down the road, over down Chatham, and I frankly also disagree that the best way to keep our community safe is just to stay silent. You say we don't have the legal authority to, just wave a wand and make the federal government stop doing this. Okay, sure. We can help ourselves. We only need to look at Minneapolis to see that there is a way for us as a community to come together and resist things like this. They got a win there. There were horrible killings in the streets that happened there, but they came together, they went on strike. They won. Maybe that's not the first step we do, but we have groups here that are coming together, that are building those protests you said we should do. So my question to you is, how can you help us help ourselves? You say you want us to protest. What can you do to help facilitate that, to help us get organized in labor groups, labor unions, in these protest movements that isn't just making a statement about respect for all or something like that?
I think you should protest against the decision makers. That's what I've said. I am not a decision maker.
Hello. Sure. My name is Matthew Corden. I'm a candidate for the North Carolina General Assembly, and I rather agree with the notion that people should direct their comments to people like me or to Allison Dahl, who is in power. As we could change whether or not this is a Dillon state, by the way. That would be a big help. Anyhow, my question is not about ICE, although I deeply respect the questions and the protesters. I joined in with that. My question is actually about ranked choice voting. It's currently illegal, and that's because of the North Carolina General Assembly. But if hypothetically in the near future it was legal, in the way that it was once a pilot program here in Cary from, I believe, 2008 to 2010, would you be interested, and would the town council be interested in bringing it back, possibly?
Sure, if we have authority to do so, I would definitely be open to hearing that. That was, I thought, a very interesting pilot. Have nothing against it. I would love to hear about it some more, sir.
I also wanted to thank you for the breadth of content that you spoke on. I care a lot about transparency, and I had other questions I thought about asking, but you covered them all, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Apologies for the cadence. I don't usually talk in public. Thank you very much for your speech. You're very committed to transparency. A lot of that really came across. You seem like a man who really cares about his community. I'm also going to talk about the ICE involvement. I know it's not as big of a deal because it is looking to be an administrative building. But I need to implore you that you need to do more in the messaging. We're not living in normal political times. I know 20 years ago, the answer of it doesn't fall under my authority would have probably been a very strong answer. We're living in a time where the president is openly going against the branches of government that are supposed to keep him in check. You need to think about what happens when something like this comes to our doorstep, because it will not be your authority that keeps you behind the things that are going to come here. I need you to think about more than just statements. That is it.
Hi, my name is Victor, and I appreciate the presentation you gave. I thought it was very thorough. I appreciate also that you covered a lot of the potential fraud activities that were going on. I do have a question associated with that, which is, I saw some of the activities you took in response to that. You voted to eliminate the town manager. What kind of information did you have to make that decision? And number two, what processes have you put in place that are going to make sure that you see the expenditures that are going on and they're no longer somehow transparent to you?
So to get rid of him, I first was approached by anonymous staff who risked their jobs and their careers by telling me stuff. I processed that, and between the Tuesday and the Thursday meeting I told you about, I'm like, I don't have the support of council because they can't make decisions based on anonymous. So I had to go ask staff members, would you be willing to speak to council in person? And they, knowing if we don't get rid of him, they're toast. And we had 4 heroic staff members that did exactly that. Come speak in front of council, and like I said, it was unanimous. And I will tell you that that evening was one of the worst moments of my life. The council cried, staff cried. It was awful how all of us had been mistreated. So getting to the other part of your question, Russ Overton immediately did the 3x4s. I hope you heard that part of it. And then I immediately did, before we got rid of him, did the transparency. That was two things that we had to do immediately. Now, the Womble-Bond-Dickinson investigation, hopefully they will come up with a whole list of things. For example, procurement cards. That's the P cards they talk about in the media, where he was spending money on anything he wanted. Everybody reported to the town manager. And so he didn't have to account for anybody. Well, that will definitely change. We're going to probably see reports about all our direct reports, which are the manager, the attorney, and the clerk, on their expenditures and their P cards and what they do. So that is definitely coming. But the majority of our changes will probably be in a list of recommendations from Womble-Bond-Dickinson. So the ones I think we have right now will have stopped most of what he did, but we will definitely have more, and I think we will be stronger for it. I really do. But thank you very much. Sure.
So I was listening to some of the comments, and I, like you have said, I agree totally with being able to protest and so forth. Some of the comments here I think are bordering on irresponsible, and it sounds like there's quite a few people in here that want to fight this. They want to get you to the violence level we've seen in other places. And no, that's the underlying thing. When you bring up Holocaust and those kind of decisions in something like we're seeing today, that's the most irresponsible thing in the world. If you don't believe me, have we got any Jewish people in here? Have we got any Jewish people in here to talk about the Holocaust? You should be ashamed of yourself for bringing up something to that level and saying there's so many people killed. It's irresponsible.
A lot of my family is, and I have many people with a stamp on their arms.
You know what the Holocaust was?
Yes.
How many Armenians were killed?
So why is it quantity? Why is it a quantity issue?
How much of our current day rhetoric?
Because the ones you're going to say, and Jews can't.
We have to wait for 6 million before we get to say anything?
So anyway, I just want to caution people against the rhetoric that they say and trying to force you into a level where you get police officers trying to arrest federal agents, which is really the goal of some of these comments. And I think that's just wrong.
Thank you. My name's Toby Burla. Thank you for your speech, Mayor. I also was here for the ICE protest. I think you might have seen, we had a few hundred people out there, and it was a very peaceful and positive protest. But what I did want to say today is ask you, and really the whole crowd, to recognize what legitimate law enforcement looks like. These gentlemen, they're wearing badges, they're showing their names, they're showing their faces, they're here to protect us. And I deeply appreciate them for that. And I want to contrast that with people running around with masks on, jumping out, no ID, and just going wild on our streets. Not our streets right now, but it could come. And I want to keep the police on our side. That's all I'm saying. Because they're legitimate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, actually, sort of to compound on that, I think one of the questions that I heard earlier, and I would like to ask you to expand on, a gentleman brought up 2 points, and I heard you respond to one of them. He said that he asked you if you would be open to do training with the officers to, we have this whistleblower, Ryan Schrenk, right, who is saying that they're telling ICE how to break the law, how to break the Constitution, how to do these things to people to terrorize them, right? And I think when you don't have training, and I think this was kind of the point of where he was getting to, when they don't have training to say, these are the things that you need to do in these situations, then it's left up to these people, these individuals, to make a decision how to act, right? And we hope that they're going to do the right thing. We don't always see them doing the right thing. So you had answered the question about, and I appreciate you saying, you know, I don't want to call attention to ourselves by making all of these public statements. I understand that. But what are you doing to train, and are you open to training our local law enforcement to how not to break the law, how not to break the Constitution when this is in their lap? Do you know what I mean? He asked these two questions, you answered one of them. Can you expand on the other one?
So I will tell you that in my opinion, and it's biased, that we have the best police department in the state, if not the nation. Chief Salt, oh, no. There he is. Chief Salt has investigated in his mind every scenario possible. He has trained his force very well. I would encourage you to sit down with him. The reason I'm doing that is because council members should never be involved in the police department. I should be easily arrested if I do something wrong, and they shouldn't have any problem with that. So for a council member to be involved with police officers, I think is a bad idea.
So I guess part two of that question is, how do we do that?
I think the police chief will be glad to take a meeting with you. Send him an email. 311. Contact 311. We have 5 more minutes. Then I'm going to have to go to another engagement.
Good evening, Mayor Weinbrecht and Council. Thank you for doing this tonight. I just want to say on the part of Cary Indivisible, of which I'm a member, we have plans on how to protest peacefully and calmly, and the police department and Cary Indivisible for 1 year have worked together on every single event, protesting event we've had. They have been marvelous with us as we protest the types of things that are going on in Washington, and that includes ICE. We hope they do not come here, and we know that every single thing that can be done reasonably will be done to protect our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Dan Pike.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say I can only imagine, and this goes for the whole council and all of the town employees, I can only imagine how horrible the last 4 months of 2025 and the first few months of 2026 have been. My challenge to the organization, and it sounds like you're already doing this, let's learn from it. Let's be so much better than we were going into it. Because I know we live in an amazing town and we have an amazing opportunity. And so let's be the beacon of light. Let's be the example for everyone else going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
I'd like to take a moment to personally thank Councilwoman Lori Bush. You were one of the people that I reached out to who did say that she had some action prepared in resistance to ICE. Is that you there? Hi, thank you. And that's to engage with the city's legal counsel and with the other official members of Cary to see what you can do. And I think a lot of the people here speaking tonight would like to hear more about what the city can do, because we understand that you do want to stand with and respect and protect the citizens. I also hear you both saying, the two of you saying, that you're concerned that if you make a statement of resistance that it will draw attention. But ICE is already here. They're already doing enforcement here, and they already have 2 offices, as reported by, not in rumor, as reported by Wired Magazine, as reported by WRAL, as reported by Newsweek, to name a few. We know that they're here. And we would like to see some things, as mentioned, is done in other cities, that are within the legal realm for us to do. Some of those being supporting the police department to record interactions with ICE anytime ICE is about, and they can do so, to help citizens who then have complaints about violence. We want to hear more of the things you can do and to have you share those things with the city. And that's it. Thank you.
So, I can tell you, I don't want to speak for the chief, but I know they all have body cams. They're all on at the same time. They also have a command and control, what's that called? You know, mobile command center where they can see what's on the cams as well. So I can guarantee if anything happens in Cary, they are well informed and they are current. They can see at that command and control, let's say you have 5 officers, all have a different view. They can see things that all 5 can't, and they can inform them of what's going on. So they're really state of the art. And again, I would encourage you to talk to our chief. You'd be amazed at all the things that our department does. I do want to thank everyone for being here this evening and for talking with us this evening and for listening to my State of Cary address. And you're welcome back at any time. We have a council meeting next Thursday. So thank you and have a great evening. All right.